I'm going to be real with you about something that happened to me back in 2017 during my second year at uni. I was 22, living in this budget student accommodation about 15 minutes from campus. The kind of place where the walls are paper thin and the heating works maybe half the time. My roommate was a guy called Ethan. We got paired up randomly through the university housing system. When we first met, he seemed sound enough. Skinny bloke, maybe 5 feet 10 inches, always wore these ratty band t-shirts and had this nervous energy about him. Studying computer science, spent most of his time gaming or coding. I was doing business management, so our schedules barely overlapped. Seemed like it'd work out fine. First month was completely normal. We'd make small talk in the kitchen, split the shopping for shared stuff like toilet paper and washing up liquid, standard roommate things. He was tidy enough, quiet, kept his door shut most of the time. I had no complaints. Then I started noticing he was around more than I'd thought. Like, I'd come back from a lecture at 2 in the afternoon and he'd be there. Leave for the gym at 6 in the morning and he'd be up, sitting in the living room with his laptop. I figured maybe he had a weird schedule or was skipping classes. Not my problem, really. But it started getting odd when I realized he was timing things. I'd get up to make breakfast, and within 2 minutes, he'd emerge from his room. Every single time. I'd come home from the library late at night, and before I even got my shoes off, his door would open and he'd pop his head out, ask how the studying went. Started feeling less like coincidence and more like he was listening for me. About 6 weeks in, I went out on a Friday night with my mates from course. Proper night out, didn't get back till maybe 3 in the morning, absolutely hammered. I stumbled into the flat, trying to be quiet, and went straight to the bathroom to throw some water on my face. When I came out, Ethan was standing in the hallway, just standing there in the dark. I jumped back, nearly smacked into the wall, asked him what he was doing up. He said he'd heard me come in and wanted to make sure I was all right. Fair enough, I suppose, but the way he said it felt off, too rehearsed. And he was fully dressed, like he'd been awake for hours. I laughed it off, said I was fine, just needed to sleep. Went to my room and locked the door. Don't know why I locked it that night, just felt like I should. The next morning I woke up with a splitting headache and stumbled to the kitchen for water. Ethan was already there, making eggs. He'd made extra and offered me some. I was too hungover to refuse. While we ate, he started asking me questions about my night. Where I'd gone, who I was with, what time I'd left, what time I'd got to each pub. Really specific stuff. I answered a few, but then told him I couldn't remember most of it, which was true. He got quiet after that, just stared at his plate for a bit, then got up and went to his room without a word. I figured I'd annoyed him somehow, but honestly, I was too rough to care. Over the next few weeks, Ethan started acting stranger. He'd make these comments that didn't quite make sense. Like once I mentioned I was meeting my girlfriend at this cafe in town, and he said, "The one on Market Street with the blue awning, yeah?" I'd never told him which cafe. When I pointed that out, he just shrugged and said he must have seen it on my phone when I was looking at the address. Except I hadn't looked at my phone around him that day. Another time, I came back from a weekend at home visiting my parents. I walked into my room and immediately felt like something was different. Nothing major, just this feeling. I started looking around and realized my desk drawers were slightly open. I always shut them fully because otherwise they'd slide open on their own. Inside, my stuff had been gone through. Papers were in the wrong order. My passport wasn't where I'd left it. I went straight to Ethan's room and knocked. Asked him outright if he'd been in my room. He looked genuinely confused, said no, asked why I was asking. I told him about my drawers, and he suggested maybe I'd forgotten to close them properly before I left. Then he offered to help me check if anything was missing. Nothing was missing. That was the weird part. If someone's going to break into your room, surely they'd nick something, right? But everything was there, just moved around. I started getting paranoid, started taking photos of my room before I left, just to see if anything changed. And things did change. Small stuff. A book moved from one side of my desk to the other. My laptop charger unplugged when I definitely left it plugged in. My wardrobe door opened when I always kept it closed. I confronted Ethan again. This time, he got defensive, said I was being ridiculous, that maybe I was misremembering things. He suggested I was stressed from coursework and wasn't thinking clearly. The way he said it made me feel like I was going mad. Maybe I was misremembering, maybe I was stressed. But then my girlfriend came over one night. We were in my room watching a film on my laptop when she needed to use the loo. She came back looking uncomfortable, said she'd heard someone outside my door, not walking past, just standing there. I opened the door and the hallway was empty, but Ethan's door was cracked open slightly. It had been closed when we'd walked past earlier. My girlfriend didn't want to stay over after that. Said the flat gave her a weird vibe. I didn't argue. Things came to a head about 3 months into living there. I'd gone to a mate's flat for the evening to watch football. Told Ethan I'd be back late. But the match was rubbish, and I decided to leave at halftime. Got back to our place around 9:30 instead of midnight like I'd planned. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could. Wasn't trying to sneak or anything. Just didn't want to make a racket. I walked down the hall toward my room and noticed my door was open, wide open. I always closed it when I left. I stepped into the doorway and froze. Ethan was in my room, sitting at my desk, going through my laptop. He had a USB stick plugged into it and was clicking through my files, my personal files. Photos, documents, everything. He didn't hear me at first. I just stood there watching him, trying to process what I was seeing. Then I said his name. Not loud, just normal volume. He spun around so fast he nearly fell off the chair. His face went white. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. Then he started stammering out this excuse about how he thought I'd left my laptop on, and he was turning it off for me, didn't want it to overheat. Absolute nonsense. My laptop has a password. He couldn't have accessed anything unless he knew it. I asked him how he got into my laptop. He stood up, pulled the USB stick out, and said he didn't know what I was talking about. Started saying I was being paranoid again, that he was just trying to help. I lost it. Told him to get the hell out of my room. He did, but slowly, like he was reluctant to leave. As he walked past me, he said something that made my skin crawl. He said, "You're not going to tell anyone about this, are you? Because they won't believe you. You've got no proof." I slammed my door and locked it. Checked my laptop. He'd copied files, loads of them. Photos of me and my girlfriend. Personal statements for job applications. Bank statements I'd stupidly saved as PDFs. Even old essays, all accessed within the last hour. I called campus security that night. They came round the next morning with someone from the housing office. I explained everything. They searched Ethan's room with his permission. He was calm the whole time, cooperative even. They didn't find anything. No USB stick, no copies of my files, nothing. The housing officer said that without evidence, they couldn't do much. Suggested we try mediation to resolve our differences. Mediation. Like we just had a disagreement about washing up. I refused. Said I wanted to move out. They said I'd have to pay around $800 to break the contract early. I didn't have that kind of money just lying around. but I also couldn't stay there anymore. My girlfriend's flatmate was moving out at the end of term, so I asked if I could take the room. She said yes. I started staying there most nights, only going back to my place to grab clothes and shower when I knew Ethan would be out. But I had to go back properly one more time to pack up my stuff. I arranged it for a Tuesday afternoon when Ethan had a lecture that ran till 5. I brought 2 mates with me to help move everything quickly. We got there at 2. Ethan's door was closed. I started packing up my room, my mates helping carry boxes down to the car. On my last trip back up, I needed to grab my towel from the bathroom. The door was closed, which was weird because I'd left it open. I opened it and nearly had a heart attack. Ethan was in there, sitting in the empty bathtub, fully clothed, just sitting there in the dark. He looked up at me and smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something else. He said, "Moving out then?" I didn't answer, just grabbed my towel and backed out. Told my mates we were leaving now. They could tell something was wrong from my voice. We grabbed the last few boxes and got out of there. I never went back. Left some stuff behind, didn't care. Slept at my girlfriend's place that night and barely slept at all. Kept thinking about him sitting in that bathtub, waiting for me. The university eventually waived the fee after I filed a formal complaint, and my girlfriend backed up the weird behavior she'd witnessed. They moved me officially to the new place, and I never saw Ethan again. Except I did see him, just once, about 4 months later. I was in the library, middle of the day, surrounded by people. I looked up from my laptop, and he was standing about 20 feet away, staring directly at me. Soon as we made eye contact, he turned and walked off. I checked my laptop that night, changed all my passwords, ran a virus scan, everything. Found a keylogger program hidden in my system files. It had been installed 3 months prior. Right around the time I first confronted him about going in my room. I'm 29 now, got my own flat, live alone. I still check my laptop for spyware regularly. The scariest thing about that whole experience wasn't what Ethan did. It was realizing how long he'd been doing it before I noticed. How many nights I'd slept in that flat while he was going through my things, watching me, collecting information about my life. And how easily he made me doubt my own reality when I started catching on. Sometimes I wonder what he was planning to do with all that information, what the end game was. But mostly I try not to think about it, because I don't think I actually want to know.